Here we are at the 2015 Winter NAMM Show in Anaheim, California, and I'm Bob Willcutt from Willcutt Guitars, and I'm talking with Tim Shaw, the famous pickup designer, who has a long history of wonderful pickups through the years. Tim, tell us a short thing about your past and then what you're doing on the new pickup.
Well, hi Bob. Delighted to be here. I started out as a repairman in the early 70s, and actually learned about pickups from Bill Lawrence. I was living in Kalamazoo at the time, working in a building that became Proco Sound, where the Rat came from. We were the repair shop there, and Bill Lawrence was consulting at Gibson and moonlighting in our repair shop rewinding pickups. So I started learning about pickups from Bill in the 70s. We had a line of guitars there in Nashville, Sunrise Guitars, and so I did the pickups for those.
The Sunrise pickup?
Yeah, that came out of that shop as well.
Famous.
Yeah. Right. I later sold that business, but basically moved to California, worked for a while with a guy named Dan Torres, who's known for modifications and stuff. Continued to do pickups there. Got hired by Gibson in 1978 as a model maker in the R&D shop and as a pickup guy. So worked in Gibson in Kalamazoo. In 1980, we started doing a series of guitars called the Heritage 80s reissues, where it's like one of the first, it's now known as one of the first attempts to take what current production electric guitars were and turn them back toward what we now think of as the golden years.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of structural things to deal with. There were also a lot of pickup things to deal with.
It's kind of like the R9s from the custom shop now.
Exactly. Well, these were a little more primitive. We didn't do everything that the R9s now have. But we went back to one-piece mahogany necks, went back to the 17-degree peg heads, recarved the tops.
Thin binding in the cutaway.
Thin binding in the cutaway. Just a lot of stuff that mattered.
Yeah.
But there had been, I guess the charitable way to call it is spec drift in many items, including the pickups. So I was tasked with the idea of getting the pickups back to what, everybody thought they were supposed to have sounded like. So there were some things that were fairly easy and some things that were less easy. We ended up,
the ones that you did, are they marked differently?
Would that they were. They showed up on a certain series of models. The Standard 80 and the 80 Elite got them. The 335 dots, first Kalamazoo dots.
There's no numbers on the back.
Well, there are some. Later on, we started stamping a part number and a date code on there. So there's certain 13137s and 13138s, for instance, are Tim Shaw's.
Definitely.
Definitely in that family.
Right.
But basically, I changed the magnet. I wanted to change the wire to go back to the original plain enamel, but at that time, the plain enamel wire cost $1 more a pound, and Norland said no. So we were allowed to measure the coating to make the coating match. So a lot of little stuff we did. We ended up with a set of pickups that sounded fairly good, and later on they got my name attached to them. I didn't hand wind them. They were all made by a very nice bunch of ladies, the last ladies in Kalamazoo who wound pickups. When I got there, they were all my mom's age. They were charming. They were great. They did anything they needed to do. But to my mind, the Tim Shaw Gibson humbuckers basically ended when those ladies got laid off and the factory in Kalamazoo was closed.
What year was that?
1984.
Okay. And it seems like those pickups were harsh and sounding at the time in the 80s, but as they get older, now they've mellowed out some.
I don't know that they actually changed that much in practice. It was, all the magnets that they were using in the 80s were Alnico 5s, which is a much brighter, crunchier sound than the Alnico 2s had. For whatever reason, people have kind of liked them. And this past year, actually, we've been talking about this at Fender for about a year and a half. And I developed this set, the Shawbuckers. I did not name that, by the way. Other folks did that, and I took it under protest.
I hope they pay you for that.
Well, like they pay me for everything else.
Okay.
But the Shawbuckers basically were created to play well in Strats. So at that point, they had to be a fairly clean pickup. And one of the things that I wanted to get back to on that was the kind of breadth or dimension. You had a word a while.
Bloom.
Bloom, there we go, the bloom you know.
Just like a bubble of sound around
Right.
the fundamental note.
But there's a kind of a transparency, and even when they're driven to distortion, there's a musicality that they have that I think a lot of pickups have lost.
Right.
So the goal with this, go ahead.
And they balance out with the single coils.
They balance out with the single coils.
Right,
yeah.
that's the hard part, yeah.
Well, because it's very, very easy for a Strat to be totally overwhelmed by a humbucker.
Yes.
You know, and these are designed to play nicely with them. We've also done a thing with the volume control, which has never been done. Traditionally, Gibson humbuckers and single coils were used with 500K volume pots. And Fender pickups usually have 250s. Now, there's a period where Tellys have like 1 megs, and they'll take the top of your head off.
Yeah.
But if you put a 500K pot with a Strat pickup, it's too bright. It's just a little too exuberant. If you put a 250K pot with a Gibson humbucker, it'll clamp down on it and kind of choke it.
Okay.
So we've added a stacked volume control. So the bridge pickup sees 500K.
Okay, that's a good trick.
Single coils see 250. And at that point, everybody's happy.
Are you using any kind of volume networks when you turn them down, like a capacitor
No,
thing?
no, it's real analog, real simple.
Okay.
It's got the super switch instead of the regular 5-way, just because we had to change out the volume controls.
Right.
So it's the more complicated switch, but in terms of the function, you know, it's bridge pickup, one coil of the bridge pickup and the middle pickup. It works just like a regular American Standard Strat would.
Wow. All analog. That's great.
It's all analog. It's real basic. This is not particle physics.
So are you proud of this one?
I like it. Yeah.
Cool.
It sounds cool.
It's what's needed today.
Well,
yeah.
it serves a purpose. I think I've always said, you know, guitars and pickups are tools and dreams. They have to give us the sound we want, the volume we have to play at, and we have to want to play it.
Wonderful quote. Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Bob. Take care.
Okay.